Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said, ooh.
You know, I get email requests all the time for a really, really good CFP. And I try not to refer people on the investment side because you could lose money and all that stuff, and then everybody gets mad at me. But I will do this. I will refer those on the healthcare side because I know this woman and I know she can help you. And she can help keep your powder dry like a baby, all right? Lyn Rowe, and her number is 877-270-3127. Her specialization is in post-retirement healthcare needs, but you got to get to it before you have a need, because it happens to be one of those things, long-term care, is what I'm talking about, that you have to qualify for. So go to her website, check her out, the tiny dancer we call her. I want my LTC.net. So Ms. Rowe,
yes,
welcome
sir.
back.
Okay.
I want you to address this. Dan Cadlick wrote not too long ago, seniors dump long-term care insurance just when they need it most. Here's what he said. At age 65, a man with long-term care coverage stands a 32% chance of letting the policy lapse before death, and a woman stands a 38% chance, according to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. Not a great fan of them, but that's me. In 23% of the cases studied, those who let their policy lapse did so within 4 years of needing long-term care. So it costs them $3,000 or $4,000 a year for 4 or 5, 2, whatever
I don't
years.
need this. Why am I spending this money?
And they drop the policy, and 4 years later, they end up spending, according to this study, $77,380 a year. But as you know, the tab can go up over $120K per year. What do you say to these folks?
Well, Ray, this is new information to me because according to the insurance companies, they had suffered zero attrition on those policies for years. And so their assumption was that people don't let go of those policies. So now if we're faced with this kind of thing, it's a deep concern because we already know that 70% of the people in skilled care today are on public assistance because they run out of assets. So for someone to think that they don't need it could be, in all candor, it could be things like someone having beginning form of dementia and saying, you know, who needs this? I'm not going to pay
well,
this.
He actually says that in this article,
Okay,
that some of it is because people just have lost their capacity to make good financial and economic decisions. And there's not someone else in there saying, you know what, I don't think you want to drop this because the mind is starting to slip. You could end up with Alzheimer's. And now we're talking about not just a year of treatment or a year and a half of treatment. That could be 12 years of treatment.
Yeah. Well, and this gets back to the point that you were making earlier, and that is if people actually have after-tax money that we can, and in some cases pre-tax money, that we can reallocate into that single premium type situation, then they don't have to worry about that in the future because they don't have to pay the premium.
Yeah, Gene Pastula talks about that almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know whether or not it is resonating, but if you happen to be a senior, what do they define as a senior now? Like over 60? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Seniors should be over 80, okay?
I agree.
As we get closer and closer. but let's just say you're in your mid-50s, early 50s, late 50s, early 60s, mid-60s, mid-70s, somewhere in that ballpark, okay?
Right.
I don't know however you want to define it. And if you have any emergency savings at all, why wouldn't you just take that money out of one pocket and put it in the other pocket?
Right.
And that money would translate into $250,000, $400,000, $600,000 of long-term care benefits. And what are you giving up? You're giving up 0% interest in a bank account. That's what you're giving up.
Right. Well, sometimes people also get caught up in, well, what if I invested that money somewhere else and la.
But they're not.
Well, that's
they're
the
not. I'm sitting
exactly.
on a savings account I've had
Exactly.
for 25 years.
And here's part of the problem, Ray, is people forget when they retire, they don't turn off the I am going to earn it savings syndrome and turn on the preserve it and reallocate it
Good
syndrome.
point.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's your CFP experience coming into play right now, because you know that part of the big game, it's not really a game, but part of what you have to do is you have to be part-time psychologist as a certified financial planner.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you run the risk of people thinking that you actually know how to get them 8, 10, 12% per year, and there's no CFP out there that does.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. If you can assume that your portfolio is going to average 6-ish, that's not bad after you're
it's
retired.
actually really, really good. Post-retirement,
After retirement.
if you could get to 6% post-retirement with the type of portfolio that you can tolerate from a risk standpoint
Right.
post-retirement, because do the math on that. If you believe that your equity portfolio untouched is going to do 8%, and your bond portfolio is going to do 3%, that's 11. Divide by 2 on a 50-50
Yeah.
mix. That's 5.5%.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take into account sequence of returns risk, because when you're withdrawing money
That's exactly
from
right.
that portfolio,
It lowers that number.
It lowers that number.
Yeah.
So I think so many people don't realize what you just said.
Yeah. And so that's where we talked about this last week, long-term care financial planning comes into play. Remember the 5 whats? What does it cost?
You're asking me to remember anything from a week ago? I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
It's okay, but the basics are: what does it cost? What resources do I have? What am I willing to allocate? And so on. So you get the point. It's what you have to work with, and being realistic about it. Being realistic about using those reserves or using that cash flow. To think that you're invincible at 65, maybe it worked at 25. I got news for us.
I thought I was invincible at 65.
Yeah.
And then I found out that I wasn't. Listen, folks, here's what you need to do. Get a hold of this CFP right here. Maybe she can refer you to somebody else that can help you in the other areas. But the other areas are insignificant when compared to the mere fact that 70% of us that have attained the age of 65 will have some need for some kind of long-term health care. And what Lyn can do is she can build it into your financial plan. Long-term care financial planning. It's the theme of this show. We have Steve Alador on. He is a loan financial planner. We have Tim Morton on. He is a retirement income financial planner. And Gene Pastula and you team up together with this linked benefits and other benefits plans, because it may not even be insurance. What Lyn does is she looks at the full gamut. We discussed this, I think it was last week or so, where even if you can't qualify for insurance, there's still some hope for you to be able to get some semblance of caregiving.
Get a plan. Yeah.
And just talk about that briefly, because that's another one that you pulled on me once upon a time that I said, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, it's a plan where you become a member of an association and you buy a package of hours of home care. And remember,
so even if you had a heart attack or something like that, and the long-term care companies say, no, I'm not going to insure you, or not at this price.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with that.
Absolutely nothing.
It only has to do with whether or not you cannot perform the activities of daily living.
If you can perform all 6 activities of daily living,
which are
bathing, eating, dressing, toileting, transferring, and you're continent.
And what was the last
Continent.
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 Like Asia, like Europe?
No, like depends.
Oh, okay. Like depends. That kind of continents.
I'm sounding like an attorney now.
Yes.
Depends.
But if you can do all 6 of those, give them again.
Bathing,
eating,
dressing,
toileting,
transferring, and depends.
And continents. Okay. So far, I'm pretty good.
And you're not in care.
All of those.
And you're not in care.
Don't need the depends yet.
Yeah. So
I'm not in care. So
You can
So
qualify.
if for some reason I couldn't qualify due to other health considerations,
Yes.
heart disease, cancer,
MS.
MS, really?
Yes,
Wow.
I've gotten people with MS and muscular dystrophy and cerebral palsy. Yes.
Write this number down, 877-270-3127. 877-270-3127. I wrote it on my hand right here, Lyn.
I see that.
And I want my LTC.net. Just think of the song, I want my LTC.net. Lyn Rowe, I thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Certified financial planner, and I am certified to give you a hard time every time you're here. Lyn Rowe, the tiny dancer. Thank you so much. Good stuff. Very
Thank
good
you.
stuff. I want my LTC.net, and I want my emails.ray. That's coming up in just a bit. Don't go away.